Trenton more back here again. And, there's something about us humans. With us humans, we have senses, right? We hear, we see, we taste, we touch, we smell, right? Those are the 5 senses. Hear, see, taste, touch, smell. And what's so ironic is that with those, senses, there's one that I specifically want to point out today, and that's hearing. Also, in other words, listening. Now, hearing and listening are 2 things that really go hand in hand when you actually think about it. And to be honest, there are some people that cannot hear and they cannot listen. Those people are known as deaf, right? And, the thing about me that I've been thinking about is, with this time that we've been going through, this time of pandemic, this time of, racial injustice, of social injustice, and just all different types of just chaos and things going on, we are starting to understand and starting to really become aware of how much we need to listen. And today I really just want to discuss the importance of listening and hearing. Now, when it comes to listening and hearing, that is something that you literally do every day, unless you just can't hear. But the ironic thing is that, it really hit me today when I was watching Predator for the first time. And I watched Predator today, and yes, I did watch the edited version. It was not the rated R full version. However, when I watched it, you look at characters like Dutch, Dylan, everyone else, and you hear them listening. You see them listening. You listen to them speak. You listen to them communicate. And they were all doing this. Why? Because they wanted a result. They wanted something that they needed. They wanted something that they wanted to get. And what was that? That was the predator, right? The Yachua. And what was so interesting about that is that they knew that hearing and listening would get them what? A result. And that's what's so important about listening and hearing. It's something that honestly we don't really do as much as we should. When you think about even video games, I'll be honest, I play video games. And, if you ever play Call of Duty Warzone, what do? You listen. You listen to the footsteps. You listen to the gunfire going across the battlefield. You listen to every little tiny thing. Why? Because you're either scared, you're either anxious, you might be nervous. You might simply just want to get a point. You might want to get a kill, right? But the thing about listening and hearing is that what? Ultimately, we do it why? For a result. But then sometimes we do it for interest. Sometimes we do it because there is something that we want. There might be something that we need. And that is simply why hearing and listening is something that we need to do more of. It is such an important thing that we just take for granted now. And at this time of really just social injustice, hearing and listening to each other is one of the most important things that we need to start doing again. Because at one point in time, we were listening to each other. We were hearing each other out. But now we live in a society where what? We silence each other. We don't want to hear people's opinions. We don't want to listen to what that person has to say because you just feel like they're wrong. You don't feel like they're right. Right? And the sad thing is that we need to stop doing that. We silence each other too much. When in reality, if we just listen to each other, if we hear what each other has to say, we will get so much farther. So much further. And that's the big deal with even this social injustice area or this, racial injustice area, just this time of chaos and, pandemic, everything. If we heard and listened to each other, we heard each other out, it would get so much done. It literally would get so much done. We talk about how white people need to listen to black people more, or, how African Americans need to listen to Caucasians more. The bottom line is that we just need to listen to each other, no matter what we look like. That's the bottom line. I even talk about how, and I've talked to you all about this before, how sometimes when I'm in a discussion with certain people, I just don't speak sometimes. Even though, yes, I'm an extrovert and I love to speak, I love to chat. And yeah, there is a chilling chat coming up about talking, right? And, I love to chat, I love to talk to people, but sometimes that what you might say, it may not be accepted. What you might say, people don't want to hear. Even though, for example, I'll be speaking the truth. I'll tell you the straight up fact of the situation, and people don't want to hear what I have to say. It's sad. But that's also a big problem. When we don't hear, when we don't listen, what don't we get? We don't get the truth. And the problem is that the truth is something that what? It sets us free. Not only that, the truth gets what? It gets stuff done. And that's why if we started listening more, if we started hearing out each other more, we will get more of what? The truth. And another thing that I want to touch, and this is why hearing and listening is so important, is because you never know if it might be taken away from you. And what do I mean by that? Think about it. There are people that are deaf. In other words, they can't hear, right? And so how do they hear? How do they listen? Because they do, if you don't realize this. People that are deaf, they listen by what? They listen by face, right? If they can see, and if they're deaf, what do they listen by? They listen with their face. You can tell that by their emotions, by their facial structuring, or by what they're looking like. You can tell that they're interested in something. You can tell that even though they can't hear, that they have an interest in something. That's how they listen. So think about really how people that are deaf, they still listen because they know that honestly it's important for them to hear. Think about people that are blind. They listen by what? They listen by their ears, right? But that's how they also see. They see by their ears because they know if they listen, they have an area to go. They know where they can go, where they can't go. They know what they can do, what they can't do. And so simply what I'm trying to explain to you all is, look, don't take your listening and hearing for granted, especially if you can, because you never know when A, it might be taken away from you. You never know when B, you might have to use it. And C, you have to think about all the people that can't hear, that can't listen, that don't know how important that is, that they don't know how that feels to be able to listen, to be able to hear. So just take that into consideration. But it was Trenton back here again. I hope you all enjoyed that. And it is so important to hear and listen because it gets the truth, it gets stuff done, it gets results. And just don't take hearing and listening for granted. And it was Trenton back here again. I'll see you all later. Peace.